Now, what Esther's noticed is that when something happens and she calibrates, other things sort of like it get stirred up. So she'll have a whole rash of things sort of like that, each one being a little softer than the one before. And as she calibrates, sometimes 5, 10, 15 times on something like that, she feels herself moving into a clearer place, more in harmony with who she really is. And in time, those experiences don't come forward. What's really interesting is when something that's just really been bugging you about someone and something that's really been bugging them about you, when that rendezvous, it's a bad day at BlackRock. Because you both feel like the other one is responsible for the terrible way you feel. When really all that's happened is you calibrated to each other, law of attraction puts you together, and you deserve each other. But you don't have to let others be your reason for calibration. And so that's what we love about talking about the vibration of light and sound and energy and vibration. But we have to lay over the top of all of that and emotion. Emotion that lets me know my calibration is off, which then, being the deliberate creator that I am, I know I can find that more general. Think about, since you were source energy before you came into this physical body, and you are, from that vantage point, liquid love. You are pure positive energy. There's no doubt or fear. You know your power and your strength. You know that you're blessed. You know that you are worthy. And so think about how long that's been going on, how big the momentum of that is. And what just happened, we want you to feel the comparison of this. This situation that just came up, even though it might have come up before, even with this person and others, in comparison with who you really are and what you really know, this is a petty, paltry, unimportant little example of some offness that you fall into every now and again. And that's why this calibration exercise is always easy to accomplish, because the momentum of who you really are is so much more. If you're watching someone, see a skier going down the slope and his skis get out from under him and he's tumbling down the slope, and you're seeing it happen and you don't want it to be happening, and you yell, "Stop!" Does he? Or does the momentum of what he's got going carry on for a little while? And so don't be hard on yourself if the momentum of past conversations or arguments or even past perceptions of who you are. You're defensive about being misunderstood for a reason. And it goes deeper than this partner.
So this was a very healing situation that happened when he triggered me, because I have learned, partly from the work that I've been doing, listening to you and a lot of other work.
We want to hear every word you're going to say, and we know that we're not interrupting so much that you won't be able to say it, because you're clear in it and you're on point with it. We just want to say that he triggered, and we want to say you want your buttons to be unpushable, you want your feathers to be unruffable, you want your chain to be unyankable, you want your trigger to be untriggerable, you want your goat to be ungettable. If you're out there with a gettable goat, somebody's going to get it. You're just sort of asking for it. Law of attraction doesn't make a mistake. So we just want you to use a different words when he and I are rendezvousing.
So how about this? When he points me towards my guidance center.
Well, that's a big jump, isn't it? But that's right. That's right. When something between us, when our co-creation makes us both realize that we are attempting to do the impossible, which is to calibrate to each other, instead of each calibrating to our own inner being, we are screwed. That's what it means. In other words, you just can't do that. And think about most relationships. Most people are holding their partners hostage for the way they feel all the time. You should be more calibrated to your source so that I don't have to do it. And then I can just bask in the gaze of your connection.
So for me, I thank the messenger and get the message. So I felt the feeling, and I know that it's not about him. This is about me. This is about me into my guidance. So as I breathe.
It's about us. It's about our co-creation. It's about us each having an active vibration that doesn't serve either one of us, and acting it out until it becomes so absurd that one of us decides we're going to do something that does work. And you'd already figured that out long before you came to talk with us about it, because you were right on point with what you're doing.
Yeah, so as I breathed into the feeling, really what you described about writing everything down, it happened in the moment. And I breathed into it. I felt the feeling. I said, this is my power. This is giving me information. And as I breathed into the feeling, I realized, oh.
What's the information that it's giving you?
Well, number one, it's
not number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just one thing. What's the information that it's giving you?
This is my mother, my critical mother, who all...
No, that's not what we were going.
Okay.
Because now we got a whole lot of calibrating we got to do.
Well, but it wasn't. It was pretty quick.
That's why it doesn't go away.
It did go away, though. That's the thing.
Then why are we talking about it?
Because you asked me to come up with a situation that happened. This happened like 3 years ago. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You haven't cooked since?
Say it again.
You haven't cooked since? You haven't been cooking in the last 3 years?
Oh, yeah, I continue to cook.
We're just playing with you.
And I clean up as I go along, and it is much simpler. Because I realized he wasn't criticizing me. He was actually coming to me trying to help.
You see, that's what humans do to each other. You find fault with each other and hold each other hostage. You need to change so that I will give you approval. So you didn't change any calibration, you just cleaned up the kitchen. So now he doesn't come in and complain because you changed the circumstance. You see what we're getting at? Can you feel the difference between that and what we're really talking about here?
But what I want to share is there was a real change in me. I felt a real release, and other things in our relationship began to shift.
We don't disagree with that. But we want to go back to our original question that just has one answer. So what is at the heart of this? In other words, what does this mean? What is it that this situation has shown you? What is the true message here? You want to calibrate to the wholeness of who you are, not to the situation. Because if you calibrate to the wholeness of who you are, the wholeness of you will show up in every situation. What if you're in a situation where it's a great big dinner and there are a whole bunch of people waiting, and you're trying to get everything done all at once, and you need to just leave that and leave that and leave that because your priorities are straight, and you know what you're doing, and you're performing and creating the most magnificent thing, and it's going to be wonderful when it gets to the dinner table, and he walks in and sees you've made another mess. You've made no progress whatsoever because the mess is there again.
Well, what I found, though, is he no longer, because that happens all the time. I clean up sometimes, and sometimes I don't, because I'm focused on my own inner balance.
We just don't want you to convince yourself that you're doing calibration work to your source when you're calibrating to your partner. That's the only point that we're making. And it's a big point that we're making, and you're helping us make it.
And what I will say is the situation was a teaching tool, which I continue to practice.
And what did it teach you? This is the question.
It taught me to calibrate to myself, not to my partner, to my own feeling center and coming into balance with my own feelings, listening, doing that inner calibration, which is exactly what you're talking about. So I think basically we're really on the same page.
Except that you cleaned up the kitchen. That's the part that we're in disagreement with. You adjusted the condition in order to solve the problem.
No, I didn't adjust the situation to solve the problem. I felt the feelings and that cleared. And then after that, I thought, let me try this. Is it easier to clean when I go along? And it really is. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. But it's about me being in balance. But I felt like that situation in honoring my feelings, feeling it, allowing that feeling to move through me. And it was my connection with the mental body and our thought process and the feeling center. And I find when I can tell my mental body, counteract the story that says, this feeling, because it's uncomfortable, is wrong. When I can say...
But you see, here's the difference. This is the subtle difference in what you're saying and in what we're saying.
Okay.
They're very close, but this is a subtle and important difference. It's attraction, attraction, attraction. It isn't so much what you're telling yourself. It's what you've calibrated to receive. You're right. You can get tuned in and receive inspiration from your inner being, and you can have it all. You're absolutely right. You can have a clean kitchen if you prefer that, and you can have perfect timing, and you can have inspiration as you move along. That's what the best creation always is. It's being in the moment and not just doing the old things that you've learned to do, but the new things that you're being inspired to do in the moment. That's exactly right. We just want you to think of it in terms of not what you're telling yourself to do, but that you've calibrated yourself into a vibrational state of being where you can receive, where you can be a cooperative component to your own intentions. And there's a difference between being a cooperative component to your own intentions and trying to manage it through action and through words and conversation. Can you feel that difference?
Yes.
Really good conversation. Really good. Yeah. Yeah.